Hello and welcome to our webinar on accelerating Temenos Transact upgrade. My name is Ashish and I will be your host for today's session. Before we get started, I am going to go over a few housekeeping notes so you know how to participate in today's session. The webinar can be accessed via your computer, speaker, or phone. If you select the phone option, a dial-in information would be displayed to get you connected. You can also submit your text questions to the presenters by typing your questions in the question panel on the right side of your screen. You can send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and respond to them at the end of the presentation. Today's webinar is getting recorded and you will be notified regarding the same via a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours. This would also be available on Maverick's website within 4 working days. Without further delay, let us get started and allow me to introduce our speakers for today. I am joined by Neelavanan Jayaprakash. He is more commonly known as Niels and he heads the Temenos practice at Maverick Systems. He has close to about 20 years of rich experience in Temenos Transact applications. He has led multiple tabs implementations over the years. Niels is joined by Debarjan Mitra. Among the customers and within Maverick, he is commonly known as Deba, and he is a principal architect. He has anchored multiple T24 implementations for leading banking fraternities, backing his 13 years of hands-on experience in Temenos implementations and business process improvements. I will now invite the panelists to take over and move ahead with the session. Over to you.
Thank you, Ashish. Hello all. Welcome to this webinar on accelerating your Temenos Transact upgrade. I am Neelavanan, and I am called as Niels in the T24 world, and I am joined by my colleague Deba, who will be taking you through the nitty-gritties of the upgrade project. And upgrade project being one of the transformation projects for a Temenos Transact or T24 implementation plays a very crucial and challenging role in a bank's core banking system life cycle. Hence, we thought that this would be a good point to take you through the various challenges, the options that are available, and where to start your upgrade projects, and what is the best practice to carry on your upgrade project, and what are all the allied projects that can be taken up during the upgrade project as such, and what we Maverick bring as advantage in your upgrade project through our tools and accelerators which are specifically targeted for the upgrade projects. So I would like to start with the options that are available for the bank when they wish to go in for an upgrade. So broadly classifying the options that are available, there are two mandatory activities that needs to be done. One is the runtime upgrade and the other is the core application upgrade. Apart from these, there could also be other activities or migrations that may happen in an upgrade project, and we'll be taking you through what those mean in your upgrade context. So a runtime upgrade is essentially the upgrade of your T24 application framework, be it a C-based TAFC or a Java-based TAFJ. Most of the upgrade projects that are happening these days involve migration from TAFC to TAFJ as well. And if you are already on TAFJ, then it is just a runtime upgrade of your TAFJ instance. Essentially, the runtime version and the core application version are interlinked, and both of them are on the same release. So your runtime upgrade becomes the first part of the mandatory activities that needs to be done. With this, when you move from TAFC to TAFJ, and when you had been on JBase, then it is imperative that there should be a database migration happening. Your current T24 database has to be moved to one of the RDBMS based databases that are available. Hence, a database migration would become mandatory when you move from TAFC to TAFJ. On the other hand, if you are already on an RDBMS and you want to port your current RDBMS to a newer version of the RDBMS, then that can also happen as an optional activity during your upgrade process. Another aspect is that with the newer framework, you might want to move from a legacy operating system framework to a newer framework. For instance, you might want to move from a HP UX or a Solaris or an IBM AX to a Linux-based system. So this is one other activity that happens during an upgrade project. Other thing is that if at all your bank is currently using desktop and you are moving to browser, then you might have to choose a web application server where you can host your T24 browser. Or if you are a bank who had already implemented the T24 browser, then you might want to move from, say, a WebSphere to a JBoss or a WebLogic to a JBoss. So these also forms part of your upgrade activity. Then comes your T24 application upgrade or the core T24 upgrade. So in this specific session, you will be taken through these two aspects of mandatory activities, which are runtime upgrade and core application upgrade. Once the core application upgrade happens, there are two things that might happen. One, you decide only to go with the technical upgrade, essentially meaning that you are moving from a lower release to a higher release and just taking advantage of the newer versions features that are available. But still, some of your products, if you want to take full advantage of the newer release, then you might have to think of moving your customizations to the core features. So that's when back to core exercise happens, and we will be touching upon the back to core also during the course of this webinar. The last activity is probably you are implementing a new module when you upgrade to the latest release of T24. So a module which you had not subscribed in your lower release, or a module that has been made available in the upgraded release, that might need to be implemented in your upgraded system. Again, there are also newer versions of the functional modules like the AA module, wherein you might have to migrate your existing LD application or your mortgages application to to AA. So such module migrations would also be part of your upgrade activity. So these are the various options that are available for you when you upgrade a T24 release. Now I hand over the session to my colleague Deba, who will be taking you through the challenges and the nitty-gritties within the upgrade project.
Thanks, Niels. Hello, everyone. Now we are going to highlight some of the challenges those come along with an upgrade engagement, mainly from a bank's perspective. We have segregated this into two sections: generic challenges and application-specific challenges. Let's first touch base on the generic and non-application specific challenges. First and foremost, uninterrupted service to customers. This should be one of the main focus. The downtime should be minimal and rollback should not be an option. Effort and cost versus benefit. From a high level, effort estimation should be done even before discovery session. Pre-analysis session should be done internally first by the bank to understand the impact on local developments, involvement of the bank Transact team, changes in infra, hardware, training or resource requirement, etc. should also be taken into the account. Next is very important, implementation timeline. Many of the upgrade project, before you start it, you think, the main question comes to your mind, the timeline, whether in the timeline that you are looking for, whether it's possible. Realistic analysis of scope against the time frame is necessary. Consider any critical or regulatory timelines need to be achieved. Consult with the expert and review the timelines before even you start. Next one, another important part is hardware compatibility and infrastructure related changes. Now, every Temenos release comes with a tech stack. For the target release, check the tech stack and see if your current hardware is in sync with whatever Temenos is suggesting. And what is the best optimal way to get the best out of Temenos Transact. So for that, hardware compatibility and your infrastructure related changes are required. Consider any improvements, and if during an upgrade, this is the best time to do, or you can wait after you go to the next release, then you can do it. Another important point is training and change management. If there is a substantial difference between the source and target release, then bank should assess the technical capabilities of the internal team and assess if there is a requirement for new skill set, how critical is that. This is not only from the upgrade project perspective, but even after you go live with a new release, this will play a critical role. Similarly, if you are implementing a new module or framework, do you need to recruit new resources or training is required for the existing stuff? And finally, it's resource augmentation. Now, while doing this, keep in mind, do you really need to increase the number of internal staff or training itself is sufficient? Unless there is a drastic change in the technology side or many new modules being implemented during an upgrade, similar team should be able to run the bank after an upgrade. So this should be assessed even before you go to Temenos or any other upgrade partner before you start the upgrade project. Next one is the application related changes. So this is more technical. Now we'll start with back to core. While moving to a latest release, it is worth spending some time to understand if some of the local development done on the current release can be moved to core. This will not only save your retrofitting related work, but will also help you with better product architecture, streamlined processes, and better functional capabilities as you proceed. Moving a module to core helps in future upgrade as well. So this back to core, it takes time. It starts at the beginning of the project, it goes till the end, but this is worth doing it because this will give you better out of core going forward. Next one, as Niels was saying, Tab C to Tab J conversion. Tab C is slowly being replaced by Tab J. Most of the banks will soon or later has to move to Tab J to get best out of Transact. Migrating from tab C to tab J is an additional work. Retrofitting your local codes as per tab J standards adds another hurdle to an upgrade project. As we proceed with this presentation, we'll highlight how using a tool to migrate from tab C to tab J will help you and how Maverick can play a role there. Similarly, retrofitting local code and interfaces. This is a must for an upgrade. Between source and target release, many things changes like application layout, deletion and addition of new fields, new application being introduced, existing application being replaced. Core APIs become obsolete or syntax changes. Hence, retrofitting becomes very, very important. Again, an automated tool can help you here. We'll cover this as we proceed. Another important point when it comes to application-specific challenges during an upgrade, mock strategy. It should be a tailor-made for the context of your upgrade. When to start the mocks, how many mocks in each cycle, and how to refer to the result of initial mocks and how to change your process, that will define the success factor for the bank for an upgrade project. Next two bits is more of a functional upgrade. Next 2 points, it's new module implementation and product migration. So this is something many bank does during an upgrade. Then we consider this a functional upgrade. It increases the scope. Not only the configuration, it will increase the scope of customization and training around it. For a technical upgrade, we'll not consider this, but for a functional upgrade, new module implementation generally happens. Next is product migration. A classic example is LD to AA. In your lower release, you are having LD. Going forward, after certain release, Temenos will not support AA, or the new things will stop coming in LD. So you need to move to AA. This is a project by itself. From product mapping to the new module, maintaining the similar functionality is better possible functionalities to the customer, then data migration, moving your existing loans into AA side of things, pre-closing those in the existing system and resume it in the AA side adds much more complexity substantially. Message formats is the next one. As you move from release to another, the application layout changes. It impacts DE mapping as well, and hence additional work on delivery module. Next is new framework implementation. This might not be mandatory for mandatory during an upgrade, but worth exploring. Implementation of integration framework, interactive framework, IDs adds complexity to the upgrade process, but adds a lot of value too. Moving from legacy InfoBasic code to Java and moving to web services, moving from web services to REST APIs. These are the two another big tasks. However, it depends on volume of customization, especially if you move your code from InfoBasic to Java. It's a complex process. It takes time, but again, depending on your customization, this can be assessed and see whether the upgrade is the best time to do it. Similarly, moving from web services to REST APIs, currently with the technical advancement, slowly web services also not being used so much in the higher releases. So coming to an API gateway like WSO2 will be helpful going forward if you have the if you wanted to go for further digitization and as per the new latest technology if you wanted to use it. So these are the things we should think before an upgrade. These are the challenge and few of the things we can definitely help. Once you decide an upgrade is required, the next step is where to start and how can you prepare yourself even before the actual work starts. The first thing comes to mind here is which is the release you should go to. The best way to select a possible target release is to analyze your context because you know it better than anyone else against the target release capabilities. There are few steps that you can follow as a best practice. First, analyze the context. Should you go to the most recent release or select a bit older release, but a stable one? Now, the latest release, the most latest release by Temenos might have so many features, but as a bank, you might not use all of them. Rather, you can go to a release lesser, which is more stable because it's been tested and used by any other client. thing. That should be thought of. Mapping business components requirement against the release notes, that also can be done internally even before you go. This is just for you to prepare the base. Are you introducing a new module, or is there any change in framework? So these are the questions you should ask and discuss internally within the team, and then you should shortlist few of the possible target releases that you should go to. Now, shortlisting of releases should be even done before the workshop. So you should select and shortlist few of them. And when you go for workshop, after discussion with Temenos or the upgrade partner, you can finalize which release is best for you. Once this is done, there are some pre-upgrade preparation work. This is more of internally bank teams and business units discussing within themselves and find out what is best for them. Upgrade is not only a technological change, it brings in lots of functional things in the newer release. So internal discussion between banks, IT and business team is important. Next is understand the pain areas of the business teams and understand the capabilities of the target release, whether some of these can be absorbed by the new release and to provide better solutions. Ring fence the IT and business stakeholders, make a core team out of your own internal colleagues, and see whether they can be helped during the upgrade, because any partner comes, it will be a lot of interaction, especially on the customization retrofitting side from the bank, and the partner will be doing the upgrade. Trace documentation and test cases for your existing customization. This will be required during a retrofitting part of your development and codes, as well as during the test case preparation. If you have already won, because your business might not change so much from last time, then you can reuse some of those test cases. Review IT infrastructure and highlight areas to improvement. And once you are ready with all this, you can consult Temenos or any upgrade service partner. Now, this is the best practice approach for a Transact upgrade. What we have shown here are all the possible stages when it comes to an upgrade. Depending on the exact context, some of these stages might not be relevant though. Example, if you are up for a pure technical upgrade, you should not consider the stage 4, which is related to functional upgrade. In a generic, typical technical upgrade, you don't implement new modules or change the framework. So other than that, other technical processes you will follow here, but functional upgrade is having its own additional stages. Now, if you see here, an upgrade will start with discovery and scoping. We need the bank's involvement here quite a bit. It starts with hardware assessment. Back to core activity will be starting here. It will not end here, but it will kick off here. Scoping, understanding of bank's architecture, all the core and all the interfaces that it's talking to. Code compatibility check also will start here, but at the high level. After this, now one point to mention here, we have given the starting point here. Some of these stages will run in parallel. Similarly, one stage can start early, but it might end after the next stage. So it depends on what kind of context that we are talking of. This is just to show you at what point which stage starts. Next one is runtime upgrade. If you are in tab C and in the higher release, you will remain in tab C. It will be a tab C lower release to higher release upgrade. Similarly, if you are in tab J and you are going to higher release of tab J, this is within the tab J, it will be an upgrade. Whereas if you are in tab C and you wanted to move to tab J, then it will be a migration, and it has its own additional steps, and that we'll be discussing as we proceed. Next one, technical upgrade, stage 3. This is where we do the core layout changes, all the code tables being changed here. After this, if you have any new product to be implemented, then you'll be start doing this work in parallel there itself. So there you will be starting about implementing the new module, assessing the functionalities, how you can use those. So functional bit of work from functional specification development, and any gap that is required to fulfill the customization related work will start in the next one. Now from an upgrade context, there are two kinds of customization. One is if you are implementing a new module, you wanted to do some changes, you wanted to assess some gaps and try to fulfill that. For that, there will be some new customization, but that comes second. First, what comes is changes in existing development due to an upgrade and code conversion and retrofitting for your existing development. It can be version, it can be local tables, it can be your multi-threaded jobs. Similarly, code conversion of the target release, changes in routine to make use and new improved functionalities, etc., etc. Now, for the first one, change in existing development due to an upgrade, if we have a tool where we can think of what we have in the current release, now in the newer release, the layout has been changed. There are many other new applications that have been brought away. So if we can compare between both the releases, then changing the versions, local tables, all the records within your existing system and make it retrofitting in the newer release becomes very easy. So we'll take you through our internal tool, which is called AzureHawk. We'll discuss this in a few moments, how this can help us to compare between the local developments and the source codes of your local customization, and how we can give the delta, what needs to be changed going forward. After this comes mock preparation. So mock, depending on the size of the project, how much, what are the applications, from which release to what release you are going, there will be, it depends in that way. It will change for every customer. It will change. For some customer, 3 mocks might be enough. For some customer, even 4 might not be enough. After that, go live and post go live support. We'll discuss on mock in the next slide. Planning mocks and executing them in a timely manner is one of the most critical factors for success for an upgrade project. What we have shown here is the best practice approach. So we have divided total the mock cycles into 4 cycles: mock cycle 1, mock cycle 2, mock cycle 3, and mock cycle 4. Now we call this as a cycle. What essentially it means, inside a cycle there can be multiple mocks depending on your context. Generally, mock cycle 1, what we do, mock upgrade with core components in a scrambled production copy. So we are not considering the local components yet, but only with the core, how it runs in the newer release, we are checking that. Next one is core, local codes, and multi-threaded local jobs, all in a scrambled copy. So previously it was only core, now we are bringing in all the local jobs and the local codes here. So mock cycle 2 highlights and focuses on all the non-code developments. Mock cycle 3, it's basically something similar like mock cycle 2, but from an update project starts and it comes to the phase when we are doing the mock, there are some codes which might went live, which were not considered in the initial mocks. So we update the code base with all the codes that went to live since we started the mock, and we do another mock cycle, which is especially on the updated code base, and we specifically focus on the performance analysis at this stage. And finally, after mock cycle 3 is over, we go for mock cycle 4. Mock cycle 4, again, it's with the updated code base with core and non-code, all the codes. And what it is different is if we do it in unscrambled production copy. So any data you choose, any data dependencies are highlighted here, and finally we need to work on those data issues also for a successful go live.
Thanks, Debak. So that completes the various stages during an upgrade process, and how the mock cycles will help you in having your upgrade running seamlessly and smoothly to go live. So during these mock cycles, as Deb was mentioning, you will also be preparing the run book so that when you go in to the go live phase, you have the various steps that are required to carry out your go live stage are in place, and you also decide on your cutoff and cutover period which you can execute to complete your go live. Okay, now what I will do is I will quickly take you through the allied transformation projects related to the upgrade. So as we had seen earlier, some of them are migration projects like the TABC to TABJ or back to core or the product migration. In the recent days, what we have seen is that in the pandemic situation, most of the challenger banks and medium-sized banks are wanting to move to cloud so that they can cater to the market demands on the technology side, as well to handle load and then shed off some of their capex onto opex. So there is a shift from moving the on-premise infrastructure to cloud. One is that, or even tier 1 and tier 2 banks are also wanting to share their load between on-premise and cloud. So these are other allied transformation project that is happening in the recent days. And when you are on legacy desktop, moving to a browser is another migration project that happens during the upgrade scenario. Apart from these, with the technology disruptions happening, you have the digital banking implementation either through the Temenos Infinity platform or through any other third-party systems. So this becomes another implementation as part of your upgrade transformation project. Again, with the newer open banking regulations coming into place and Temenos also moving towards an API-based solution, implementation of open banking and especially the PSD2 ones in the UK Europe region becomes a very important project during these days in a transformation scenario. And an allied implementation is the FCM and the payments. So FCM is the financial crime and mitigation product of Temenos, which goes again with the open banking API implementation. Similarly, with the payment solution being pulled out of the core T24 product and with capabilities to handle multiple payment settlement types in the European region and elsewhere in the world, those also become important these days. Last but not least, the data management frameworks that Temenos provides has also come in handy in the recent days, wherein data segregation and data, move to a data lake can also be achieved using Temenos tools themselves with Temenos DES or the Temenos Data Hub or the data source frameworks which help you achieve these. So you might also be thinking or planning of implementing these other technology products during the upgrade as such. Okay, now I will dive into what is in store for the banks when they move to Tab J. We have been talking about Tab C to Tab J conversion right from the beginning. And there has been, or at least there was a reluctant on the bank side to move to a Tab J because it was totally on a different technology. But with the pain comes benefits too. So in this specific slide, I'll be taking you through the challenges when moving from Tab C to Tab J and what are the myths that are going around about Tab J and actual reality, how they help the bank in the technology disruption. So the challenges, first thing is making your current data compatible with Tab J, which is essentially moving your current data from JBase to an RDBMS. So how do we do this? Temenos provides the necessary utilities to convert the data from the JBase format to make it compatible on the RDBMS side and able to work with TabJ. As you might be aware, TabJ is a Java-based framework, and hence it supports native JDBC and the other Java-related technologies like JMS. So essentially, the Temenos utilities themselves come in handy when you want to convert and port your data to a RDBMS. Next big challenge is retrofitting the source code. Yes, as the improvements happen on the application side, so does the retirement of the incompatible APIs. So how do we retrofit those, identify and retrofit those APIs? It has been a challenge. There has been a lot of manual effort that was required, but we from Maverick identified this as a potential challenge, and we have come up with our own accelerator, which would automatically identify your obsolete APIs or incompatible APIs, and it automates the conversion of the code, and it also identifies code that would require manual intervention, which cannot be automated. The other challenge comes with the connectivity. With TabC, your connectivities have been more socket-based or JAgent-based. With TabJ, it is now more structured and more standardized through JMS queues. So your Transact browser seamlessly works with JMS and the contemporary technologies that are available in the Java platform. The next challenge is the interface compatibility. Yes, definitely this is going to be a challenge. And during the discovery phase itself, we can help you identify which would require a complete rework and which would require minor tweaks to make them compatible and work on TabJ. Okay. Now let's see some of the myths and the actual reality of the TabJ. Okay. First myth is that it works only on Java. No, your info basic code still works, but you also have the ability to write the code on Java. So if you essentially have Java developers in-house, then you can take advantage of the TabJ platform and you can use your existing Java coders to write the customizations on the TabJ platform. Okay, my developers have been accustomed to use JED, and they can just get into any of my application tables using the JED command. So now I don't have access to that. You still do have access, but it is now more controlled and more secure. Unless otherwise the user applies some credentials, they will not be able to access the database through DB tools. And it still provides the JED through TJED. So even earlier we touched upon the interfaces. So earlier interfaces were using JAgent. So with TabJ, there are a lot more features or facilities available for the bank to capitalize on the Java technology. So wherein you might have had some wrappers built around to access the T24 data from a 4GL technology, with TabJ, it is now open. So essentially, what are the benefits that the bank gets by moving to TabJ? You can do Java programming, you have better interoperability with other technology applications, and when you are planning to implement open banking to handle the technology disruptions, TabJ definitely comes in handy. And with componentization happening in TabJ, your applications and code are better structured and your libraries can be reused in a more efficient way. And last, TabJ also provides you an opportunity to bring the T24 development lifecycle into a DevOps pipeline, which was not existent or which was very cumbersome in the TabC implementation. I'll quickly walk you through the actual migration process. It's very similar to what we saw in the upgrade process. So again, we will be doing a migration planning, and then we will do a detailed discovery and scoping of your existing implementation. Then we will do the configuration on the TabJ implementation, then do the retrofitting and any other compatibility coding that has to be done, do a testing, and then do a go live. So to highlight, your ID descriptors have to be replaced and some of the other APIs have to go, and they would be replaced with the newer versions of the APIs, which are much more robust and standardized and secure. The next part is on how we achieve back to core. Again, Deba will be taking you through on the various steps in the back to core exercise.
Thanks, Niels. So back to core can be done two ways. One is by configuration itself. Obviously, that will have lesser effort. Another one is by configuration and local development as well. So you are currently using a process that might not be totally fitting with all the core capabilities, but with a little bit of local development, you can get a better architecture, lesser maintenance thing with the core capabilities. But little bit of local development might be required. So this has to be assessed during discovery and scoping phase, where we see your local development, we understand what kind of customization has been done, what kind of business flow has been following, and then compare it against the capabilities of the core modules. Now, prerequisite for this is just simple. We need to know what kind of customization has done. It can be your already existing documents, or it can be sometimes it will be, we need access to the bank IT and the business users to understand the process in a better way. And otherwise, we just need the access to local code base. That's it. With that, we can do back to core analysis. But why should we do back to core analysis? The things to be, you should analyze during this back to core phase is whether the module is future proof, the scalability, how it's impacting you, whether the training and surrounding system, whether it's a stable customization done in your release, then is it worth moving towards the core thing? Next is another important point. Few of the Temenos modules comes with a multiple licensing cost. Like currently you might be using one customization which might be supported by two of the different modules in Temenos. So that is also you should be thinking of, because if the customization is properly working fine, it doesn't have any issues, is it worth moving to higher licensing cost and supporting one part of functionality by two modules? But mainly you will be doing back to core for better maintenance and better scalability going forward. And core, obviously, think about all the other scenarios, more functionality, it brings in more functionalities. Back to core activities. First of all, existing functionality mapping to the new modules, impact assessment. Existing customization will be mapped to the new core functionalities and your existing functionality. If there is any gap, that has to be customized. So for that, L3 development lifecycle will go. After this will be the POC. So POC is not only for just to make sure how the customization will look like or the back to core will look like. It is more to understand and make your business teams accustomed on what core is going to offer. Descoping the local transact table and data migration of code tables. So if you are already in an existing customization, you have all the data stored in your local custom table, that has to be moved to the core tables. So that will also will take some kind of effort from your side or the person who is doing the upgrade. User guide and training documentation. because the business users of the bank will be used to the existing customized process. How the core will change the process, that should be documented even during the analysis phase, and it should continue update till it's going to the UAT. So yeah, back to core is an important part, but again, if you are doing function, if you have major challenges, then only you should follow it. Back to you, Niels.
Thanks, Deba. So, what Maverick brings you as an advantage is that with the tools and accelerators that we have, we help you in reducing the overall duration of the project, and with the templates and documents that we have and the methodology that we follow, we help you in carrying out the project in a more shorter and structured way. And with our MCIA tool, the retrofitting of your obsolete code and incompatible code happens automatically. With Azure Hawk, you can compare your current release and the target release, and that greatly helps even before implementation how things are going to change in your system. And Azure Hawk helps you in identifying the data changes, schema changes, and any effect that it might have on your other applications on the T24 side. And with our own project workbooks, the implementation time and quality is also improved, as we have a structured workbook for each of the implementations that you might do during the upgrade, like AA. So essentially, with Maverick tools and accelerators, we help banks accelerate their upgrade process in a more controlled, managed, and better way. We will quickly run you through the two accelerators that we had been talking about. Azure Hawk, as I said, is a release comparison tool. This does a comparison of your source system and the target system on the schema level and the underlying attributes that are attached to your schema. Hence, it will be able to identify the schematic changes between the two releases and present you with a changelog document, and also because of the changes, which are the underlying T24 components that are going to get affected, be it your version, your inquiry, all those will be highlighted in the impact analysis document that gets generated through the Azure Hawk tool. So with this, we can do a comparison between your current release and the targeted T24 release before upgrade to assess what are the changes that are going to come in, and post upgrade to reconcile between your current release and the upgraded release of T24. And we can also generate the documentation on the parameter tables that have been configured on the target T24 system, so that it comes in handy for your IT team whenever they want to refer on the configuration of T24 without actually getting into T24. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have project workbooks which will speed up the implementation and requirement gathering phase of your implementation. Currently, we have workbooks for AA loans and deposits, as well overdraft loans. And on the upgrade process as such, we are constantly adding more and more workbooks so that we help banks in speedier implementation of the newer modules when they upgrade. In the next slide, Deba will be taking you through on the Maverick Code Integrity Assistant, which helps in retrofitting the code.
Yeah, thank you. So since beginning of this presentation, we are talking about two things as a challenge. One is moving to Tab C to Tab J and retrofitting of the code. Now, why this is important? Because Tab C, the codes, some of the functionalities code designed in the Tab C will not work in Tab J, so we need to retrofit that. Similarly, when you're going from a lower release to upper release, there will be many core APIs that's been used, might have changed their syntax, some of them might be obsolete, and some new core APIs came which might do the work that you are currently doing in a better way. So how do we find that? For that, we have created a repository. We tracked from R9 till R20 what are the new changes are coming through when it comes to core API side of things. Any new tables are being introduced which are you are using in your local development. So those tables are being obsolete now. Any new tables are coming in, any changes in the layout. Parallelly, any new fields are bringing, whether the file layout, the file, whether the field numbers change. So all these small changes we have discovered, we find it out, and what we did is we just noted it down in a repository. So this using MCIA, what essentially we do, if you need to do all these things during an upgrade, it takes a lot of time. You need to check your existing code against the whatever the new release to is capable of, and what are the things being changed. So what we can do here is we can use our repository and the tool, this MCIA tool. What it does, it refers to this repository, understand which release you are in and which release you are going to, and what are the changes being done from the API, from a file layout, from the field numbers perspective. And what it does, it changes it automatically. It looks for looks into your local code base, finding out what are the changes been made since you created that code in the newer release. Either it replaces it by itself, or it highlights in a log file, this has been changed, I have identified it, you need to change it manually. Things like syntax changes is not so easy to replace, so things like syntax changes will be coming as a log file. Developer has to work on that manually. Whereas if there is a field change or where there is a shifting of the fields, that can be done automatically. Both the cases, it will give you a report which will talk about what are the things it has changed, which line number from what field to what field it has been changed. If there is a change and shift of a field number, then it will show that also. If there is a syntax which it could not change, but it will highlight this syntax, this particular piece of code is using the old syntax, it has to be changed. So this makes total retrofitting work, let it be Tab C to Tab J, or during the normal code upgrade retrofitting, much easier. You don't need to go do everything manually. This tool will do the basic comparison for you. Also, it will change whatever the new standards of the target release.
Thanks, Deba.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our session. So hope we had given you a better, much more better confidence now to move on with your upgrade project. So Ashish, we are now open to take the questions that the audience might have already posted to you.
Thank you, Neil. And thank you, Deva, for your valuable insights and a great presentation. I found that to be very useful, and I hope our audience also found it informative. And we now move on to the Q&A. You could type in your question in the question panel on the right side of your screen. We have a question from one of the audience members, and the question is, what does MOC stands for?
It's
Deba, would you
basically
like to answer that?
so mock is basically is the dress rehearsal. So when you do the go live activity on of upgrade, you just do not want it to do on the go live night. Before that, you will just do a dress rehearsal on how, like, what are the steps have to be followed during go live. So what are the run book you will be following, what are the exact stages, at what stage you'll be deploying some pack, what stage you will run the upgrade service, what time you will be doing any upgrade in the code. So all this dress rehearsal, you don't just do it on the go live night. What you will do, you will do this and make yourself prepare, because when you do the initial mocks is basically dress rehearsal. Your go live, whatever you'll be doing, you are preparing from before to understand what are the issues you are facing and what are the best mitigate options for that.
Thank you, Deva.
Thank you.
Audience, if you have any questions, you could type in the question in the questions panel on the GoToMeeting control panel that you see on your screen. The next question we have is, for moving to LD to AA, what should I do with my corporate loans?
Okay, I think in R20, Nils, I'll take it here. In R20, the corporate loan facility has came 2024. Previously, we used to use retail product lending, but on top of that, we used to do some local development to support syndicate lending or all other corporate kind of loans. But from R20, we have facilities product, which is basically the corporate loan book. So using that, you can create your corporate loans within AA itself. It started in R20, and I think it's getting better in R21.
Thank you, Deba. Audience, we have time for 2 more questions. If any one of you would want to ask, please type in the questions in the questions panel on the right side of your screen. Panelists, there is a question, and it goes, how long will it take to do a back to core assessment?
Deba, again, back to you.
Yeah. So this actually depends on the context. So depending on how many modules you'll be moving, how much local code I should refer to, and how many tables in local customization that I should refer to, that actually defines. If it's a small one, it can last. First we need to do kind of an assessment. It can last. The end-to-end activity can for a small module can last from 3 weeks to 4 weeks, but again it depends on exact context. So first we need to understand how many local tables are there, what is the volume of the data, how many local codes involved, what kind of codes are there, whether those are related to multi-threaded routines, and so many other things to consider before we can give the timeline. But for a small module, it will be 2 to 3 weeks end to end.
Thank you, Deba. Hope that answered your question. We have time for 2 more questions, and there is a question already that is popping up. It goes, what are the major challenges while moving from web service to API-based framework during an upgrade? Deba, Neil, would you want to take it up?
Niels?
Yeah, I would take it up, Ashish. Yeah. So web services have been in existence for quite some time now, and with the banking industry moving towards open banking API based implementation, and with Temenos also providing API solutions for the existing applications in T24, the challenges are not that profound. Rather, it is only a migration from your web services to an API based solution. To list challenges, probably moving to a different kind of a platform where you have to manage your APIs through a API management tool, and also to segregate these web services between your internal users, your bank users, or third-party applications. So that's where the challenges would come in, as well on the security front. So these are some of the areas where you might be getting into challenges when you move from web services to API.
Thank you, Niels. Audience, we have time for one last question. You could type in your question in the questions box on the right-hand side of your screen. All right. The final question goes like this. Is there a requirement of an upgrade assessment report before you start an upgrade?
Deva, would you like to take that?
Yes, Niels. Yes, by the process that we follow, the Temenos upgrade assessment report before we go to discovery scoping will be required.
Great. Thank you, Deva. All right. That was the last question for today's session. I would like to thank and appreciate your valuable time for the webinar today. Just to remind you once again, we will share the webinar recording to all the registrants through a follow-up email in next 24 to 48 hours. Also, this webinar recording would be available on our website in the next 4 working days. Thank you and have a great day and stay safe.